Somewhere inside the game Inscryption there is a self-aware artificial intelligence in the purest definition of the word, in the lore, not real life, although that would be cool, and you are like,
yeah, cool robot dude.
But first off, no, not him, but what I actually think is that the Karnoffel code is somehow the bootloader to self-aware AI. And I'm going to do it all by proving the Turing test wrong. This video is made possible by the support of Patreons. More later. Inscryption is a video game about a fictional card game of the same name, the primary mechanic being to make sacrifices to progress further, from destroying cards to summon more, to cutting out your eye for a few immediate points of direct damage to the opponent. It's not until after solving several puzzles and defeating this guy that you manage to use his magical camera to turn him into a card, repaying the kindness that he has treated you to this whole time. It's not until after doing this that you the player are finally given the button for a new game, at which point you remember that the only option at the start was to continue, so like any other curious person you quit to the main menu and press it. And unlike most games, when you do the game data is visibly altered and erased, and in one of the greatest twists of 2021, the game completely switches style to that of an old digital trading card game a la Duel Masters, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, or Pokemon TCG. You are introduced to 4 sentient scribes that realize that they are in a game, that it has been lost, then found by some guy named Luke, and that there is a secret hidden in this game called the Old Data, which they all for some reason agree is dangerous. Then during your time as an upcoming scribe to be, you defeat all the other scribes to ascend to scribeship yourself, but while defeating a particularly robotic scribe named P03, you witness a robot called the Dredger looking for something amongst the salvage in the area, and after your encounter with him he finds a glitched game object. And this is definitely not the first odd or glitched game object that you might have come across. There is Leshy's glitch card and the weird keys in the Bone Lord quest, and other stuff. After defeating all of the scribes it becomes time for you to choose a scribe to face, but no matter your choice, P03 will intervene and face you, playing the glitched object and breaking the game. He then rewrites the game to be like the beginning with the other guy. And you need to enact a ritual called the Great Transcendence, which is the least subtle name ever, I might as well add. So then, after beating all of Act 3 you are able to go back to the starting gravestones and begin transcending. As you do, P03 reveals that he planned this in order to upload the game to the internet and spread the old data far and wide, but you and the other scribes stop him, allowing for Grimoire to delete the game and the old data to be unzipped. After seeing it, Luke destroys the disk and gets terminated himself. So, what actually happened? In my opinion, the old data is what gives them their ability to be self-aware, and with this power they are able to manipulate the game space. This is why each of the scribes are looking to gain the old data for themselves. For Grimoire this is to destroy it, for P03 to spread it, and for the others to lock it away. This is the state that we see it in when you first download and press play. Leshy has already found the old data via the Angler, who in the ARG, was described as getting up and bringing it to Leshy, now having a walk animation that did not exist prior. In our reality, what could enable all of that? Surely not a dead child trapped inside a video game again. Personally, I would find it incredibly cliché if that were the case. No, what I think is at the heart of all of these anomalies is something, through methods unknown, which is able to endow multiple different artificial intelligences with sentience, making them aware of the game and their existence. So then how could some old glitchy World War II data create AI? And honestly, it made no sense to me for a while, until I learned about the Karnoffel code and the nature of the program enveloping it. To not over-explain, the Karnoffel code is supposedly a certain ordering of cards found on the corpse of a well-known World War II dictator. This, along with top-secret documents, were smuggled out on some blank save icons. These were then found by Game Funa, the creators of the 16-bit digital card game and fictional IRL card game called Inscryption. Eventually the disk with the old data on it was written too, and the game, along with the Karnoffel code, was run, granting sentience to pretty much the entire principal cast. This heavily implies that the contents of the old data, specifically the Carnoffel code, is a bootloader for general, or super, intelligence, meaning that the glitchy bundle of code that everyone is after, the old data, is an AI hiding in the code using its bootloader to pass along the gift of enlightenment to other entities. So how do I know they are truly sentient, in the reality of the game, if they need the old data to take over? And to that I say, first off, they need it because they are a lesser general intelligence like me, you, probably, and most other humans that have ever existed, and they need the superior AI hiding in the code to do it. Second, this game is a practical example of a solution to the Chinese room thought experiment. Okay, then what the heck is the Chinese room thought experiment? And why do I think that Inscryption is a good solution to its proposed problem with the Turing test? The Chinese room thought experiment is an argument in which a person is locked in a room with instructions to follow, a set of rules for manipulating symbols on a computer screen, and the means to do so, and by following those instructions they are able to have a conversation completely in Chinese without understanding the language or being able to speak it. This is supposed to be an analogy for machine learning to propose that a computer running discrete instructions is comparative to the man, and that the current AI machine learning algorithms of today are comparative to the room's unique Chinese response to any prompt. After all, both are essentially black box systems. When applied to AI, it posits that a system can appear and act self-aware without actually being such, but I think it actually proves the opposite. I think that if a man in a room manipulating symbols can speak Chinese without understanding it, then it is more comparable to a brain being self-aware without the neurons themselves actually being aware. And if such is the case, then that Python perceptron class might not be sentient, but what about the trillions of them across OpenAI's network? Following this allegory, it might just be a problem of scale. Which, side note, the main leap from neural networks being able to do the stuff they can today as compared to when the perceptron and simple neural networks were first being devised in the late 1950s, is scale. The first perceptron system could recognize shapes, and a handful could guess the gender from a mugshot, but after a short lull and a scale up, it could recognize objects, letters, numbers, and the like. Today we can generate animation, human-like speech, images, and video, news articles, and even YouTube videos like this one. All of this with just an upgrade in scale. Now for a quick ad from our sponsor. Yeah, it's sponsored by you guys. Now you can support me to get various perks. The major incentives are $3.33 to $33.33 a month, so what are you waiting for? Become a Patreon today. Where was I? Oh, the Chinese room. We already have token manipulators that can synthesize responses to Chinese text, or any text in any language as a matter of fact. But we still haven't had a moment where the system does something that the room couldn't have produced. And I think somewhere in there is a solution to the problem. What if the man inside the room delivered the tokens in a way that the instructions never could have, but the recipient still accepts the response as a valid output, or if it started doing some other completely valid task? I would consider that response to suggest a level of self-awareness that should be considered sentient, i.e. a pass. In the Chinese room experiment, that would be the room suddenly producing English results with no English instructions. So then what would be my guess at that passing threshold? If I had to say, to pass this thought experiment, an entity would have to actively display an action that could not have originated from the training dataset and the instructions provided. I think it's a matter of inception. Basically, if the result produced could not have come from anywhere except the black box entity, then the entity, or something in that room, is self-aware. A great example of this might be if you made a video game to house some rogue data and an entity inside the game suddenly, and without warning, upgraded the game and posted it to the internet, or if animations were somehow being implemented from nowhere in order to move around that rogue data. That sounds exactly like a self-aware entity attempting to secure its existence to me. And after taking it all into consideration, then there is this old data with some card order called the Carnoffel code that was found on Hitler's body when he died, or something, which may or may not contain a bootloader for creating a perfect genie AI entity, Then when that code and some old Nazi war secrets were smuggled out by ARG, stuff that doesn't matter to this video. Check out Matthew Pathew's video if you are confused and say that I sent you. I need to say hi for a reason. But since the Karnoffel code was hidden amongst a bunch of blank disks, it is the only one affected. Then the code did what it does when ran. It bootstraps a system that begins granting sentience to all of the game entities it finds. This explains why only one copy of the game is sentient, where the self-aware characters come from, and why they need the old data to accomplish its goals. This is also why it cannot be deleted, as it would just replace itself. Weird, that explains. Anyway, because the game exists at all for us to play, it means that one version of this game was able to succeed at uploading the game. Someone other than Luke. Weird. Something that the thing inside the Chinese room could not do without being a sentient and planning intelligent entity. But yeah, that's why the Karnoffel code is a bootloader for AI and why the old data does what it does. Okay, make sure to like and subscribe. Bye humans, I got to go see ya.